All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone, wherever we are in different parts of the world. Welcome to Emigrate Open Day, February 2021. Our guest for today's edition is already in the room as well. So I would say welcome to Opeyemi, and I'll say welcome to every member of the team in the back end making this happen. We will start today with a bit of housekeeping. First of all, I should mention that this session is being recorded, so please be aware of that. Also, for today's session, how it's going to go is I'm going to give a quick introduction for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to hand over to our guest, who is going to be talking specifically about the America and some US pathways in terms of tech-enabled pathways to relocation and settlement. After his session, then we would have time for question and answer. What we advise is, please, if you have questions, pop it in the chat and all, because we would take those questions first before we can take any live questions. So that being said, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Bade Adeshemo. Amongst many other things, I'm the CTO and co-founder of Social Lender. And today we'll be talking about tech-enabled pathway to relocation and settlement. Just to make sure that I'm not speaking to myself, can anyone hear me? You can just pop that in the chat to confirm to me that you can hear me.
I can hear you, Bade.
Okay, thank you, Okwe. Thank you for that feedback. All right, good. So welcome to the Emigrate Open Day. And so first question is, what is Emigrate? So, well, for us, Emigrate is helping people to become globally attractive. There are two ways. The first way is using a tech profile. That's the individual. The second way is using tech-enabled business. So maybe a startup or something like that. Now, something we believe very strongly at Emigrate is the fact that the visa itself is a side effect. Yes, the visa may be the reason why you came into the room today to say, what are my options for relocating out of Nigeria? But the truth is that there's life after the visa. And so the visa itself is just a side effect of something which is much bigger. That thing which is much bigger is you being globally attractive, meaning that every country wants you. Every country wants you to set up in their own jurisdiction. They want you to become a taxpayer in their own jurisdiction. They want you to create jobs in their own jurisdiction. They want you to add value in their jurisdiction. They want you to have patents and all of that in their jurisdiction. That is more important. So yes, you can decide that, oh, fine, my first step is, oh, let me find a better place to set up, to have my family and so on. But you need to think about life beyond that, because you still need to earn income. You still have to live after that. I should also mention that Emigrate is specifically targeted at people in tech. And so if you are not passionate about tech, you will be frustrated. We should mention that up front. But when I say tech, I'm not just talking about the technology side of tech, the technical side, but also the business side of tech, even the investment side of tech. There are many pathways available, and our focus at Emigrate is really about tech-enabled visa opportunities. So just to mention that there are many other opportunities out there, several of them, but the ones that we focus on is the tech-enabled ones. We are interested in ensuring that you attain global mobility. We're interested in ensuring that you become globally attractive. Now, Emigrate actually started for us as just a solution to a challenge that we had internally. And the reason why we started Emigrate was the fact that we saw that we knew some things that many people around us did not know, including our staff, including our interns, including some of the senior people within our own ecosystem and within our own network. We realized that there were many things that we found out over a period of time, some of them that we stumbled into, But these are opportunities that if people were just aware of them, some people would be able to target it and will be able to make use of those opportunities. And so where we see Emigrate, however, today is that it would become its own startup. And the problem we are solving is global mobility, specifically for African founders and techies today. Also, to help individuals generally become globally attractive. Today, it's being incubated by Bincom Dev Center, but over a period of time, we hope it will be much more. I've mentioned it many times, and if there's nothing you remember from my own session today, is the fact that you need to aim to become globally attractive. But whatever that means to you, to your own specific career, and those are some of the things we hope you will pick out from this session and several other things we've done under the umbrella of Emigrate. Your life does not stop when you migrate out of Nigeria or whichever country you are today. Your life actually starts. And so the fact is, if you know that these are the things that you need, even outside of Nigeria, why not start building them right now? These countries we are talking about, and for Emigrate, we focused on 4 specific countries: the UK, the US, Canada, and France, but there are several other countries as well. They want you. They are interested in having you in their community. They are interested in having you in their country as long as you are adding value. I know for some of us, why we are here is just, I need to be anywhere but here. But we are trying to open your mind to say, please think about something bigger. In terms of Emigrate as a collection of services, as a business, these are some of the things that we do in Emigrate. We have an Emigrate community now, both on WhatsApp and on Telegram, which is free. We also have a premium Emigrate community, which is a paid community on an annual basis. We have our Emigrate monthly open day, which is the session you are attending today, and there's a cost to that. We also have a couple of services: the personalized consultation session, which is about 30 minutes to 1 hour sessions. We have the standard session, which combines 3 personalized consultation. Typically, maybe at start, we can help you in terms of what are the things you need to do. Sometime in the middle, we can also review to see how well have you done. And then sometime at the end, just before you submit your application, we can also take a look. And then the Emigrate Premium, which is for us, I mean, this is what we actually started with. And that is handholding you for a period of 1 to 2 years for you to qualify. 1 to 2 years being assuming that you haven't done anything today in tech, right? That you can qualify for some visa categories within 2 years. And of course, if you've done some things in tech, some of those things may count as well. If you're interested in any of these services, there are 2 steps. The first step is to indicate interest so that you are in our database, and you can do that at bincom.net/emigrate. Emigrate is spelled EMIGR8. Second step is for you to request for a service, and we have a request for service form where you can fill the form and to let us know what specific service you are interested in. In terms of the Emigrate Open Day, this is the 3rd edition, and this is the first time we're having an external guest. Well, it's not really an external guest because it's a friend of the house, really. But this is the first time we're having an external guest, and we're going to be focusing on the US for today's Open Day. We have a few other guests lined up, Canada, somebody from France, and so on, for subsequent editions of the Emigrate Open Day. We also have a premium community, which is the Emigrate Circle. And then today's session, is a friend of mine that is going to be taking today's session, Opeyemi Awoyemi. I don't have his profile, but many of us probably know him from the days in Jobaman. He's done many things in the tech ecosystem in Nigeria, and he's also doing big stuff today. And he's going to tell us a lot more about those. But I'll quickly just say this in terms of just closing this little session. If you have 0 interest in digital technology, this is the wrong pathway for you. Also, when we keep saying things like exceptional talent, some people don't think that we are talking about them. But the truth is that over a period of time, you can become exceptional. I find this especially true for women, but I mean, this is changing with a lot of interventions that we've seen. But please bear in mind that everything we are talking about, you can qualify for. Even if you don't qualify today, you can plan to qualify over a period of time. In some cases, your business is your visa. So your startup can be your visa. And in some cases, your startup can even be your ticket. I've traveled into many places in the world, and it was my startup that actually paid, or I mean, someone paid on behalf of, I mean, the business for me to go to those places. So bear in mind that these opportunities exist. For some people today, this is probably the slide that you need to take a screenshot of, because this slide just shows you some sort of, in terms of some of the visas available to you as a techie, whether you're just starting your journey in tech or you've already been in tech for a while. For the UK, things like the startup visa, the innovator visa, and so on. And we've talked about some of these visa types in previous editions of the Emigrate Open Day. You can find the video for that. Today, we'll be focusing on the US, as I mentioned. Canada has something called the startup visa, and that is a direct route to permanent residency. And you can even get a temporary visa while you're trying to process your permanent residency in Canada, and so on. What you should be doing now would depend on where you are and what level you are. And it would depend on the right combination of experience, exposure, and skill that you have as at today, and maybe money as well for some of those routes. Because some of us may have 15 years of experience in technology, maybe in a bank, but for example, but some of those things may not count, because what we've been doing has just been sitting down in the back end of the bank without being globally attractive. And so it may not even be relevant at all. Some of us may have been doing things, and this is how we stumbled on some of the things we talk about now in Emigrate, that all of a sudden, those are the things that the world is asking for. Contributing to open source, all of those kind of things. And Okwe will talk about some of those today as well. But this is a map that some of us may be interested in, to say if you have at 0 today, within 2 years, you can qualify as exceptional promise for the UK, for example. Within 4 years, you can qualify as exceptional talent. There are many visas in between, depending on your own unique circumstance. Nobody can guarantee you a visa, and we are not doing that here. What we can do is show you the way, show you the information that is available, and then you can decide to make the best of those opportunities. That's what we are doing today. Some visas are available for you as an individual, which we call tech-enabled profiles, and some visas are available to you as a startup founder, as a business owner, which we would say tech-enabled businesses. And yes, so this is where I would stop for this. I know that some of us will have questions, and we will be taking questions right after Okwe's session. So I would introduce Okwe. I would introduce Okwe now. He's a friend, and is currently in the US, and I will just yield the floor to Okwe at this point. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and over to you, Okwe. Thank you for also being here.
Thank you very much, Buddy. I appreciate you inviting me on this platform, and hello, everyone. It's been a good day so far. Yes, I wanted to start by talking about the fact that like impact and skills matter. I think Buddy has done a really great job talking about that, so there's no need to rehash that. I think that's like the groundwork of everything. So I guess I would just kind of skip to talking about my story, who I am, why I moved, how I moved, and what I'm doing now. And hope you guys would hear it, would get to learn a thing or two from there, and from there we can proceed very quickly to questions, especially on like visa types, and the differences, especially on the US side. I'm not a visa expert in any way or form, so this is really just me sharing my my story. Okay, so yes, who am I? I'm Opeyemi Awoyemi. Like Buddy said, a lot of people might not know me, but you probably have interacted with a platform that I built at one point or the other. I am the founder of Jobberman, the largest job site in sub-Saharan Africa. A lot of people here have used Jobberman, or at least know someone that has used Jobberman, right? I think I'm super sure of that. Uh, I also founded WooGoHost. WooGoHost is a web hosting company. It's the largest indigenous one in Nigeria, with over 60,000 clients. Um, Big, interesting business, and I have learned a lot over a decade that I've been, leading that business as first as a founder, CEO, and now as chairman of that business. Yeah, I'm also an angel investor. I'm invested in a couple of startups in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. And then it begs the question, why did you move? Did you jackpot? Was it like business scattered and whatnot? You know, it's an interesting story. When I decided to move, a lot of people that heard like, what are you doing? Like, you're making a lot of money in Nigeria. Why are you moving? Where are you going? For what? What is there for you? Um, I will talk about it today. So why did I move? It all started with me um, deciding at some point to get to the next stage of my life. I started my business career in Ile-Ife, Osun State. I schooled in Obafemi University, and my first business was started in Ile-Ife, Osun State as a graphic designer. The business was called Innovate Nigeria. Then after that, I started WooGoHost, also in Ife as a student. And even Jobberman was started with me also being a student, right while in Ife. So I went from building a business in Ife, making money in Ife, Osun State, moving to Lagos, building a business that was widely known across Nigeria, to becoming the head of jobs of Ringia One Africa Media, which was the company that bought Jobberman, and spent time moving across Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya, right? Over the space of 1.5 years. Then I decided to leave. I felt like I'd done stuff in Ife, locals, town. I've done something nation, Africa. Then the next thing is to do something for the world, right? That was the way I saw it in my mind. And I know you might be waiting to hear a sub story, Nigeria is so bad, blah blah blah. I don't have that sub story. I mean, if I share a sub story with you now, I will be a hypocrite. But I sort of have like some sort of sub story, even at my level. And my sub story goes thus: I'm not a billionaire in any way, right? I'm not that rich. Let me put it that way. But if you think about it, I built two category leading businesses in Nigeria. I built the biggest web hosting company in Nigeria, and I built the biggest job site in Nigeria. And yet I'm not a billionaire. Right? If you built the biggest web hosting company in England, you would be a billionaire. If you built the biggest web hosting company in US, you would be a billionaire. Or jobs, you would be. Now I've built two. I'm not a billionaire. That tells you a lot about size of market and opportunity in the market, right? Nigeria is not a bad place in itself. I like to say that it's not a river flowing, it's a gold mine, right? It's not a river flowing with milk and honey, it's a gold mine, which means you have to do the hard work of mining it. But the interesting part is that hard work that you have to do, if you do the same hard work elsewhere, you're likely going to be 100x richer, 100x better, 100x more impact, but then it might not be where your heart is. So even for me, as I speak today, my heart still is with Nigeria, and a lot of the things I still do today are still targeted at Nigeria. So I put all of those emotions together, and I told myself, hey, you need to think about this very, very well, with a bit of prayer as well, and talking to a couple of advisors. I felt it was the right move, and I moved. So how did I move? Sometimes in 2017, I heard about 2016 actually, I heard about the EB1, which is the green card opportunity. They call it the visa for extraordinary permanent residence for extraordinary ability, which you could qualify for if you had started a large business, like a startup. Let me kind of just read through that. If you started a large business, if you have high remuneration, meaning high salary compared to others in your category, or high equity in a funded startup, or if you have written some scholarly articles, or you have some patents or original contributions to technology, or you've been judge of your peers, right? Or you have huge coverage in major media publications locally and internationally. So I kind of met a couple of these criteria. I was the largest shareholder in Google, which was doing $2 million per annum. I've been covered by CNN, Forbes, and whatnot. High remuneration, original contributions. So it just kind of made sense to apply for that visa. Interestingly, it's not that expensive. I even paid a lot for it because I paid a lawyer to do like all the work. I think I spent overall $13,000, right, on that. I've seen people that have spent 5,000 or 4,000 on the same track as well. And pretty much the process started in that was 2017, like August. And by 2018, August, I had a green card. Now, let me explain the difference. For the US, there's the visa and there's the green card. Visa gives you access to enter. A green card is what we call permanent residency, right? That means you're not just traveling, you are a permanent resident. The only thing you can do as a permanent resident is you can vote. You have rights to pretty much every other thing. You are permanent, right? So I skipped the visa stage and just moved straight away to permanent residency. So it's possible. So when we talk about this, so you hear a lot of EB1, O1, and whatnot. One is a visa, one is a permanent residence, right? If you go for visa first. Visa is easier sometimes to get, but you can now graduate from the visa to the permanent residency after a while, right? And in some cases, you can also go directly for the permanent residency. Now you might say, okay, you're not a founder. Where I did start Jobberman. Where do I stand? And Buddy talked about that the other time. You don't even need to start Jobberman to start it. I know a couple of folks who will not want their name mentioned in the startup space, in the technology space, who have introduced to my lawyers, and they've also helped along the same route. You just need to have made some impact. I think that's what really matters. Whether you're thinking about it for the UK, or for the US, Canada, France, pretty much all of them are asking for something from you. They're asking that they want you to be the best of the best, right? In whatever you do. That's all they're asking for. Or they want you to bring value to their community, to their own country. When I want to talk politics, I think about that as some sort of brain drain. These countries are saying we don't want just anybody. We don't want anybody to come and beg. We want people that will bring value to us. They are extracting value. That's what they are doing. But it's also good for Nigeria because we are a lot in Nigeria. 200 million people. We need a lot of people to go from Nigeria and go out and send more FX home so that the dollar will not even the inflation will not happen. Because when you think about the inflation that's happening today, it's all lack of the fact that FX is not coming in, right? So the way to sort that out is to send more people more people abroad. And that's why the government is never concerned about people going abroad. Please, as many people as want to go, the government really wants you to go, right? So that they will know the number of people that are remaining and they can take care of them. And you can also help take care of them because you're going to have family, interests, and everything back home. So that's by the side. So when we talk about like you pretty much being best of the best, tech is an easy way to distinguish yourself. But they mentioned that earlier because technology today, I think Mark Anderson once wrote this article, big op-ed in the New York Times a couple of years ago, like a decade ago, that said software is eating the world, right? I think it's not just software now. Everybody has agreed now that technology is eating the world. Technology is changing every single sector, right? And as such, if you're a tech person, there are opportunities for you. So once you are doing something in relationship with tech, either as a professional or as an entrepreneur, right, you're perceived as a special person in the world of today. And that's what exactly these countries are looking for. So software developer, product designer, UI UX designer, product manager. So you don't necessarily have to code, but frankly, don't run away from coding. Coding is not rocket science, right? Nobody's going to ask you to build Google from scratch. In fact, what I discovered, having worked with engineers here also in the US, is that some of our engineers back home are even stronger than engineers in the US because our engineers back home have built systems end to end. Meanwhile, a programmer in the US or in the UK have worked only on one thing in a huge, big system, for the last 4, 5, 6 years, right? They will communicate better, they understand the thing that they do very well, but they don't necessarily have the breadth, of experience across many, many things. And that also helped me as well when I moved down to the US. So please, there are a lot of resources back home in Nigeria for you to become very good at something, and whether it's development, whether it's product management. I'm not going to teach you that here. That's not the work of this. That's beyond the scope of this call. I don't know whether Emigrate does that, but there's just a lot of opportunities you can avail of today to learn how to become a tech person, right? And I think everybody should take advantage of that. Now, sometimes a trick also is, as you're becoming a tech person, start finding people you can partner with that even more technical than you, and start coming up with good ideas that can work on the global level, right? This is very important. Start coming up with ideas that can work on the global level. Sometimes, what you need to do is don't even stop thinking about the visa. Start thinking about what you want to create that can add value, and you will find out that the thing will just put you in the visa line. Like when I got the visa, the reality is I was actually looking for the visa so I could become an investor. I wanted to build a venture capital firm, right? And I wanted to be a US person so I could be able to raise funds from US people. I was not thinking about moving to the US. It was a year, so I got the visa in 2018. It was until 2019 that I actually decided, actually you should move, and I found people in that situation as well. Let me tell you a funny, interesting story about how having skills, doing the right thing, thinking first about creating value can even take you to opportunities that you are not even expecting. So I'm a US permanent resident, but let me shock you. Just yesterday, I started applying for the Canadian permanent residency as well. Why? Because I just got the opportunity for almost free. I'm not. I said no at first. And why did I get the opportunity? Because I invested and helped to start another startup that actually got to an incubator in Canada, and they said, all of you, we can apply for permanent residency for you. It doesn't cost you anything. Come and do it. Right. At first, I rejected because I was like, I cannot spend 2 months in Canada. I don't want it. Right. But then I realized that, okay, what I'm actually working on today in the US might also need some Canadian, representation. Okay, let me do it. If I lose the residency, yeah, so be it. I have the US one, it's permanent, right? I'm not, so it's more he who has little continue to get more, and who does not have at all. I can imagine what people would do for a Canadian permanent resident, and this is me getting to name. Yeah, I don't really care, right? And it's because I was trying to build value, right? Not because I was Canada, right? It doesn't have to be that way, right? A startup founder today in Nigeria that's built a strong model and can show that the thing can go global, or he wants to do it internationally, can present to a Canadian accelerator. And once they give them, once they agree to take them into the Canadian accelerator, immediately you don't even get to pay for the filing, because they're going to fund you. It's part of the funding you're going to use to pay for filing. You won't spend any kobo of your own money. You can imagine, right? So, but first you have to create, right? So, and I why am I stressing on that bit? I'm stressing on that bit because, right, even when you move to the US or Canada, America, it's not really easy for most people, right? Especially because they have to kind of, get their qualifications recognized, or, look for a job and spend long, amounts of time without a job. So, but if you've started something, already while you're still in Nigeria, it's super easy for you to just acclimatize immediately, right? You don't need to stress yourself. I've been in the US for 2 years. I bought 2 houses in the US in 2 years, right? And it's because I just kind of moved in with very little stress, and whatnot. So you need to also think about things that way for yourself. And please don't think that, oh, it's because you're the jobber man guy. It doesn't really matter. At whatever level you can do this. You can do this. I've seen people who are, just in their very early 20s, make these moves. And once you have a degree, pretty much that's all you need. That's the base. The rest you can build on over the next couple of years and put yourself in a position where you get access to these opportunities, whether in US, UK, Canada, or France. Um, I think I've covered pretty much the big topics. I wouldn't want to talk too much. Just keep on yabbing. I would at this point in time want to let folks talk, ask questions, and I can speak directly to your questions. I do hope we've learned a thing or two. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ope. I really appreciate that. I'll just ask one or two questions before we then open the floor to the house. I know you've touched on it a bit, but could you just maybe just focus on some of those visas again that they can go Google? I mean, all of these things are in public domain, but if you could just touch on some of them that you think, I mean, people on the call should go look at.
Okay, cool. So I'll start with the visas, then I'll move to the green cards. So for the visa bits, the big one is the O visa, right, which is the O102 series, and that is pretty much for people who are talented, have extraordinary ability. Talented could mean different things. It could mean you're an innovator. It could also mean you are an athlete or entertainer. Most of the folks you will see in Nigeria, they are musicians. They all have some of these visas. They are dual, they have permanent residency elsewhere, right? Also, academia, people with PhDs in some, exotic course, some science course, or even in Yoruba language, you'll be shocked, right? In Yoruba studies, they have, some of these visas because they are valued, right? So PhD, masters in artificial intelligence or in some cybersecurity and all of that, they also can go for these kind of things. Then there's also the work visa, right? Where a company is sponsoring you. This is the one that most people tend to want to get because they're like, I cannot do anything. I'm just a professional. Please, which company will sponsor me? Unfortunately, it's the hardest to get. The reason why it's hardest to get is because a company in the US that needs to hire you, or UK that needs to hire you, needs to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that they've looked for someone like you in their country and they've not found, right, before they chose to hire you. While it's possible to prove that, it's sometimes not necessarily expedient for most small companies. So it's only the very large companies, the Amazons, the Facebooks of this world, that typically want to go through that stress to prove that you are special. The small companies don't do that, right? They don't really care. Also, in terms of geography, there's a large swath of people coming from India and whatnot in some of these countries that kind of fit into those pools and would technically almost even accept lower pay. That even the big companies are inclined towards people like that more than large swaths or large groups of people from Africa. But it's not impossible. Don't get me wrong. You can get it. I'm sure a lot of people that are working for Facebook in Nigeria today, or Google, they are always looking for, hey, Google, can you transfer me to the US office, and whatnot, and get the visa, right? So there is that too as well. So there are other kind of visas that are not necessarily, that are beyond the scope of this course. So visas for all the victims of human trafficking, student visa and whatnot. I won't talk about them on this call. For me, I've always believed in the principle of not settling for less, right? If you can get something, a lot of people think these things are hard, right? But meanwhile, it's just because they never put their mind to it, right? If you can get into the US easily by just packaging an idea together or by having just a few tech skills, and clean up your resume a bit. Why do you want to go through a route that you now be running around, you're trying to hide, you are lying, you are doing all of that? You don't need it, right? You can go straight and cheap. You don't even have to spend too much money. That's what I'm telling you, right? Now moving on to the green card one. So the green card, it's basically the main one is the EB visa, and there's EB1 to EB5, right? EB1 is for sorry, one moment. So EB1 is basically employment based in immigration, but a different kind of employment. The EB1 is what we call self-sponsored. Like in my own case, I didn't have to need anybody to sponsor me. You sponsor yourself, right? Which also means when you get a permanent residency, which is renewable every 10 years, you can work anywhere, you can start your own business, you can pretty much do anything you like. You get the point. EB2 is similar, but it's for senior executives of corporations. EB3, researchers, experts, programmers, developers, designers. Then it gets to EB4. I'm not sure what EB4 is now. And then there's EB5, which is the one that is the investor's visa. That one requires you to actually bring cash, So like if you have $1 million thereabouts, right, you can bring that in, invest in the US, and then you get a permanent residency, right? So those are like the visa opportunities that are there today.
Thank you so much, Ope. The second question that I will be asking before I yield the floor is, we have a disparate audience in the house. We have people that are just getting into tech, some doing internship, and then we have people that are 10 years, 15 years experience in tech. So I don't know if there are specific advice you can give for each one of those, that audience. So let's start with the one that is 0 years experience, green on, probably just graduating from school. I see a question here of someone that doesn't yet have a BSc as well, but we'll get to that question. 0 years experience, what should I be doing now?
Okay, I'm going to take it from 0 and then we'll take it up. 0 years of experience, what you need to do now is to get into tech, right? Start learning how to code, how to design, whether it's mobile apps, web apps, or whatnot, right? As you're thinking about that, if you're the entrepreneur type, or you just have just a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit, a little bit is enough, right? Start thinking of ideas you can create. By the way, when you think of ideas you can create, don't necessarily think of like starting it immediately. Just keep thinking and start talking to others, right? In most cases, right, you would be let me say your success is much more assured when you partner up with someone else who is also thinking about the same things, also developing skills, and both of you can work together, right? So it doesn't have to be a solo game, right? It doesn't have to be a solo game, please note. So get into tech, start learning how to code, learning how to design, or learning product management, getting those skills ahead of time. After that, the next step could be you starting your own startup or you're joining an existing startup so that you can even gain more experience, right? Pretty much you can move fast on that in 1 to 2 years, right? Join an existing startup, a smaller startup, you can skip from that to a larger startup. And by then you're increasing your own income as well from 100,000, 200,000, 300, 500,000, so move down that path, right? That's what I would advise. So first step, get into tech ASAP. That's the first step I would advise. For those who already have some experience, maybe are working in a startup today, you've gained some experience working in a company, a bank, or wherever, you can start thinking about your own startup ideas. Don't resign, right? Think of your own startup idea as a side also. You can also start looking for a job remotely with a company in the UK, in the US, or in Canada, right? There are platforms that you can see these remote jobs today, from even the Indeeds of this world, to the LinkedIn, to the specific niche platforms, right? For developers, there's Vanak, right? There's also Talent Killer. We're doing a lot of that today. That in the near future, of helping people to actually move. So there's all of that, right? The options are just too many for you in terms of like getting a job. So keep applying, keep improving your communication skills, so that you can get more access, so that when you do interviews, you can have a higher chance of being considered for the next stage and whatnot. So also there's a lot of startups that are like headquarters in the UK coming to Nigeria. There's Microsoft, there's Google, there's Facebook, more of them. Look for opportunities to join some of those companies. It exposes you more and provides and gives you like a much more stronger connection to being able to move. And lastly, you can also just apply for the UK talent visa directly, as long as you have some talent already. I don't know much about the UK one, but pretty much you just need to be able to prove that you are someone of talent. I've worked on interesting projects. Let's say you work with Paystack. Wow, that's great. Everybody wants to hear it. You work with Java Man or the company that raised $5 million or whatever. Those are like ways you can communicate that. So you don't necessarily have to become an entrepreneur. So like I said, get a job with a foreign company or start applying for the visas immediately, right? Or go start your own thing that you can use to present, that this is what you're doing, right? Or you plan to do when you move to the US. So let me tell you, by the way, all of these applications, those are like startups. Nobody's saying you should start at those things. We're all saying, say this is what you plan to do. When I did my OB1, I was asked, what are you going to do when you get to the US? I presented them a plan for a startup, and I can tell you I'm not doing any of those things I said in in the application today. Not like I lied, you get the point. But then, of course, I'm an entrepreneur. I've spent a lot of time in that space. When I see new opportunities or opportunities that can be refined a bit, I know how to switch gears and do the right thing. So, yeah. And for those who are experienced already, I'm assuming you already have strong income already. I think you should definitely apply for the UK talent visa or the Canadian, or go to or do Canada straight away. Don't even think about it. Your money can cover it. You can pay for it. You can get it in less than 8 months. Make it happen. Don't waste your time, right? Don't waste your time. If you're a startup founder that has raised money at some point, consider the US. I strongly believe the US visa is the best one to get for entrepreneurs. That's my own opinion. I might be wrong, but yeah, that's my own opinion, right? So if you can get the US one, which is startup founder that has raised money before, go for it immediately. Don't think of anywhere else. Just go for it immediately. Someone asked the question of which one is easier to get in. None is easier than the other. It all depends on who you are and where you are at, right? So if we're talking about someone that does not have like all these stellar qualifications or whatnot, I would say Canada is the easiest, because Canada, pretty much with a good first degree, right, you scoring a great score in IELTS and whatnot, right, you can pretty much start your processing to Canada without stress, right? So Canada in that sense could be the easiest, where you don't need to prove that you're a talent. You just need to be, someone that has potential, right? Which is what they check by. They just check age, IELTS, and then your degree. I think that's what qualifies. And if you have a spouse and you and your spouse are both young and whatnot, it kind of increases the opportunity to as well. I can see someone asking, is it possible to get a visa?
Fantastic. So that was the question I was coming to. There's someone on the call that doesn't yet have a BSc and is asking about, are there visas for him?
So if you do not have if you don't have a BSc, it's tougher, but it's not impossible. The question I will ask you that, what do you have, since you don't have a BSc, right? And when I mean what do you have in life in generally, you just have to have something before people consider you as a serious person. Something could be you started a business. There's an invention. What do you have? That's the question. So if you don't have a BSc and you don't have anything, and you know what I mean when I say anything, then in that case, you need to start working on yourself first, right? Working on yourself to have something, right? To have something. Something could be chasing the opportunity, become a very good developer. I remember a guy, he's one of my favorite developers, front-end developers today, when he came around then to my company, Vela, and it was like, I don't have anything, right? I just know how to design WordPress websites. I said, okay, good. You're going to learn front-end development, and we're going to get you started, right? We gave him a laptop and everything. Got super good in front-end development. Left the startup, joined another company, started his own food delivery startup on the side. He's doing very well today. Now he has the skills to apply for all these things in less than a year and a half, right? So if you don't have anything, start developing yourself, right? Start developing yourself. I'm not going to ask you to go and do a BSc of 4 years, right? That's not the right answer. I mean, you should do your BSc if you want to do your BSc. I have a BSc, so I won't say anybody should not get a BSc, right? But start developing yourself. What do you have? That's really the question. But you have to have something, even if you don't have a BSc. Um, someone
Yeah.
said, is
There's
there a
also
place
an hardware person in the room.
hardware technician, right? I think this is the place where knowledge comes in. So you're a hardware technician, right? Um, Spend some time Googling and checking whether there are hardware technician roles abroad or in the US, in UK, Canada. If you see, then the answer is yes. If you don't find, then it means you need to parlay your hardware technician into other areas. And when I mean parlay, it could just mean you having to do A+ certification. It could just mean you parlaying that into cybersecurity or networking, right? Don't get stuck on this is what I know and this is what I will stay with. I think that's really the challenge. So if you're an hardware technician, upgrade your hardware skills and you'll be good. A lot of folks, I can tell you, a lot of Nigerians that are in the tech space in the US today don't code. Let me just shock you. They don't code, right? They basically do mostly two things that I've noticed: program management, right? Which is not even product. It's just, some level of project management with a bit of technical sprinkled on top of it, right? And they do a lot of DevOps, servers, networking, security, right? They don't code, but over time, they know Linux, right? They've grown to understand Azure and all these cloud services. So that's also another direction you should go to. So for example, if you're an network technician today, go and start AWS certifications, right? AWS certifications. The first level is free, I think. Go and start, right? Start learning, start becoming a cloud expert. And in the meantime, we are happy to also hire you at Google Host, before you decide to move. But yeah, those are the kind of things you start learning. Cybersecurity person, too many opportunities. You are a talent already. If you have those skills already, you're a talent. Try and get a job. If you can't get a job, or if you're trying to get a job as well with a US, UK company or whatnot, you can start applying. AWS, Amazon Web Services, Amazon Web Services. Those with the skills but no certifications, get a job. The skills, the certifications don't matter. But I like to also say these things. Even when I say the certifications don't matter, right? In life, it's a competition, even though it's not a competition. You have skills, but you don't have certifications, or someone else has skills and certifications. And some of these certifications are free. Why don't you have it? Right? Why don't you have it? Right? So you can try and get it, but at the same time, you don't have to get it. But if you can get it, you can get at least one or two, the ones that are free. It doesn't hurt you. You can get at least, even if it's just a Udemy course, that you just run through, just to show that at least you have something, right? So that you don't have to use your mouth to say it. Some people can say it for you as well. Please do. It just increases your chances, right? But the skills is what's most important. For UI UX skills, too many opportunities. You're a strong designer. Put your portfolio out there. Start seeking for work with remote companies, right? Try and get into one as soon as you can. I know a UX guy that I know just got a job now with Amazon Pay in the UK, right? He was Lagos to Dubai, from Dubai to the UK. He's doing very well and is balling, right? Pretty much same processes, nothing else. He studied engineering, but started doing Photoshop and whatnot, and ended up that line. Yes. So I think I've covered all the questions. I think I've had the question. So networking, system management, cloud aspects. I think you might even have more opportunities than even the software guys, right? Simply because the software guys still need communication and whatnot. For hardware and cloud, for cloud, especially when I say hardware, I mean cloud. I don't really mean hardware. Nobody's repairing laptop and anything anywhere in the world anymore. For the guy that asked the question about motherboard, let me just tell you the facts. Nobody's doing that anymore, right? Nobody cares about those things, right? So just upgrade your skill into cloud. You have technical skills already, just upgrade your skills into cloud. Forget about repairing laptop. Nobody's repairing laptop in America. Well, I don't mean that in that way, but I mean not a lot, right? And people don't. Microsoft is not hiring people to repair laptops. They just throw the laptop out. once it's bad. So you know, so yeah, so that's that for the people and in tech. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so let me just quickly make a couple of announcements because we're about 10 minutes more for this session. So please, if you have questions, make the best use of this opportunity and post your question in the chat. As you can see, Ope is picking up those questions and answering as many of them as we can. So please do so. For those of us on the call, there won't be a chance for us to do verbal questions. So please quickly type your questions and then you can, we will be able to see it, either read it out or we'll pick it up as quickly as possible. I would also just mention to the, and I think Ope has already hit the nail, as regards the person repairing laptop, hardware, and all of that. It's very easy for you to convert your skill to DevOps, infrastructure, cloud hosting, DevOps, and all of those kind of things. That's what you should focus on right now. For you not to know what AWS is an indictment on you, right? And we have to be able to tell you that right here. You should know what that is at your stage because you've said that you've had about 10 years of experience doing some of these things. It means that you are lacking in exposure, right? These countries want you as long as you have the right combination of skill, experience, and exposure. You need those things. So you can't say I have the skill and I have the experience, but no exposure, right? Because it's the same skill you need that for the physical hardware that you also need for you to spin up a server and all of those kind of things. So please bear that in mind. Yeah, so I see many other questions coming in. There was a question I wanted to take, if you just allow me. Yeah, somebody asked a question about our Emigrate service. This is one of the questions that came from registration, that introduction to endorsing bodies is stated in our standard plan. Does it mean a direct introduction to technician or to UK or accelerators to fast track the process? It depends on the visa that you are looking for. For the technician visa, you don't need an introduction to technician. There's already an application process. That's for UK. There's a technician visa for whoever doesn't know what I'm talking about. Google it. You'll find it there, or watch some of our past videos. What you need for the technician visa is you need 3 recommendations from people that know you. We cannot facilitate that, but we can advise you on what you need to do. However, there are other visa types, like the innovator visa. For the innovator visa, there are endorsing bodies, and you can get introduction to some of those endorsing bodies. So bear in mind that different visa types and different requirements for the different visa types. So it depends on the country you are focusing on, and it also depends on the what you are looking for in terms of what type of visa. Some people may decide to start with the startup visa. It's easier to get, right? But the startup visa is also limiting for the UK because you will not be able to work anywhere except in your startup. So please bear that in mind. Yeah, over to you, Ope. So I see a couple of questions. Let me see. We talked about the UI UX. So I see a web developer. What about having works to show from freelancing?
So in terms of works to show from freelancing, yeah, definitely, I think that's all you need, right? The good thing about tech, especially the tech that you can see the outcome directly, where you can see that this person directly worked on this, right? Which is design in most cases, or maybe you build a mobile app by yourself or a website by yourself and not just contributed to the backend code. For those, freelancing definitely works, right? Freelancing is, in fact, the easiest way to show what you do, you know. So please always have a portfolio. Is it on Dribble, just some files on Figma, you know, or on Behance, you know, always have your portfolio at hand. Like if I want to hire a designer today, the first question I'm going to ask you is that send me your portfolio. No portfolio, no work. I won't give you a test. There's no point testing you. You're not a developer. I'm not going to test you. I just want to see what you've done before. If I like what you've done before, yes. If I don't like what you've done before, no. It's that simple. I don't even need your resume. Like, we don't need to have a discussion. Let me just see your work, you know, because it's very artistic, right? So I think that means that it's easier to even showcase your skills than even every other person. Someone asked the question: is there an
Okay,
opportunity
okay,
for human resources?
before you move on that point, UI UX guys, Behance, if you don't know what Behance is, you have a problem. Google it and figure it out, because what GitHub is to developers is what Behance is to designers today. It may change in 2 years'
I'll type it
time,
for them.
right? It may change in 2 years' time, it may change later on, but as of today, you should be building a portfolio, a very strong one on there if you are focusing on UI UX. Of course, if you're a developer, you should be building a very strong portfolio in GitHub. If you don't have your own projects to work on, contribute to open source projects. Try and make it popular ones that won't die in a couple of years. I was lucky. I mean, I built the Joomla community in Nigeria. Today, Joomla is no longer relevant, right? So if I say that that's what I'm doing today, I should probably be doing WordPress, right? But 10 years ago, Joomla was very relevant. We were not sure who was going to win between Joomla, Drupal, and WordPress. 10 years later, WordPress is the winner. And so what you should be contributing to, if you are thinking of open source CMS, is WordPress. My key point is find what it is that will put you out there, because beyond the experience, you also need to be globally recognized, and in little ways. So don't forget, one of the things Ope said was that he started local, then he became national, then he became global, right? You can skip those steps and start doing things globally immediately, because there are several opportunities for you to be able to do that today, that you can simply use your computer, but spend your time wisely. Okay, over to you. My apologies for taking.
That's fine. That's fine. Olawale, please, I'm asking you a question in the chat. What's your talent? You said you're wasting your talent. Um, okay, but back to the Ijoma's question. So, is there an opportunity for human resources? Yes, definitely. But you're not likely going to get a talent visa, right? You should probably, you know, just do the normal Canada visa thing, right? And go to Canada, right? So that's definitely a way to do it. Another way to do it is you could go start something around HR if you're the entrepreneurial type with someone else, like a not like a jobber man, but something similar to jobber man, talent skill, or a bit of immigrate, something a bit of flavor of what any of those things, right? Or something, some HR with AI, whatever, right? Just think about something and you could create one with a tech person and then go with the startup um, direction. I think we've
Before
answered the
you jump
question.
on that one, let me just add to what you just said. For a lot of startups, so for an HR person, you can actually go on the business side of technology, right? So there are two sides of technology. There's the technical side, and I recognize that we focused a lot more on that side today, but there's a business side to technology as well: project management, digital marketing, and so on. But you can also be the business co-founder of a technology startup, right? And so Ope had mentioned, you can think of something innovation in the HR space. You can work with a developer, and build something. And that startup you build can become your visa, as we mentioned at the beginning of this, and may also be your ticket as well. Of course, it will be a lot of work. You can't be doing it because I want to get a visa. You have to be doing it because you want to add value. You've seen a problem that you believe you can solve. But something that people don't recognize is that even if your startup fails, the world has recognized that the fact that you've put in this work and you have this experience in this particular sector means that you can do something else that will be successful in the future. So that makes you qualify. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I thought to add that as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
so next question.
Someone
Okay,
someone asked a question and said, "What are the platforms to get access and more info about these opportunities?" Start with Google. I guess that's the simple answer.
and
Um,
and you can also pay emigrates. So I should mention that as well.
yes.
Start with Google. I mean, for us, before you pay anything to emigrate, we make you watch videos and all of that, because we don't want to start talking to you about things that you can find in public domain. And so part of the reason why there's emigrates is because there are things that we can solve for you from that perspective. Okay, there's one here that says visa opportunity for data science, data analytics. I think we've covered this to a large
Yeah,
extent.
we've
DevOps,
covered
we've
that.
covered that to a
Yeah.
large extent.
So the
Right.
question about Jobberman and Who Ghost. What did you do in terms of Jobberman and Who Ghost that made it stand out? I'm not sure what we did differently. There are two different business models. But one thing is just deliver an experience, solve a problem for users. Just solve a problem for users, right? Of course, the problem for users 10 years ago is not the same as the problem for users now. But if you are providing a solution that users want, definitely your startup will be successful. You will make a lot of mistakes down the line, but then it will be successful eventually if you are solving a problem that users want. Yeah.
Okay. For the person doing healthcare, so okay, would you mind another extra 10 minutes on this session? Because I see we have 17 messages that we haven't gotten on. Is that fine?
Okay, let's do it. Let's
All right.
do it.
Thank you for that. I see a question here about healthcare solutions, startup locally, some advice. Just keep building your startup. Start applying to accelerators, applying to incubators. That may be helpful, especially if the idea you're building is globally attractive. If it can scale to other parts of the world, then it would be something very interesting for many countries and so on. Look at things like Go Global for the UK, look at the Global Entrepreneur Program for the UK. For Canada, there's a list of incubators that the government recognizes. And if you can get your startup into one of those incubators, you sort of already have a ticket. Sorry, you have a visa to Canada to a large extent. So those are some of the things I would advise. Okay, healthcare startup.
Yeah, for the healthcare startup person, you said you lost some advice from me. I don't know what you're building yet, so let's talk. But if it's just about the visa bit, I think Badi has spoken to that. There's also an advice that I don't really hear people give very often, but I'll give it now. It's about getting on LinkedIn. See, in life, you cannot go further if you don't know what is happening, right? And what other people are doing. Sometimes all you need to inspire yourself is to see what other people are doing, right? And then you started to say, so this is possible. I can do it myself, oh, I can do it too. And the easiest way at scale, especially for the kind of things we're talking about today, is LinkedIn, right? You want to be something, go and look at the profile of the person you want to be like on LinkedIn and see how they move from one step to the other. LinkedIn for me, it's like think of each profile as a biography. You can see that this guy started as this, and this is where he is now. You can see the whole timeline, and you're easily able to see where you fit in at one point. And then you now know the next thing to do. Not that you'll be thinking, how will I get to that top? Right? Forget about the top. Just see where the person is and where your person was 10 years ago and where you need to get to. You get the point. It's helped me a lot because sometimes I even think like, what am I doing in my life? I'm not doing enough. I'm doing too much. Am I stressing myself too much? Am I being too greedy? Am I being too ambitious? I'm not ambitious enough. And sometimes I also saw they say, okay, Microsoft just announced a new VP. And I see someone that the face looks young. By the time I check, probably like, oh boy, this person left school 10 years before I left school. Calm down. So I kind of like, I'm not competing with them, right? I'm an entrepreneur, I have my own path, but I can easily get a sense of how well am I doing? How fast am I moving? Am I doing the right things? You get the point, and learn. Don't go on LinkedIn to convert, by the way. Let it inspire you. Don't go and be jealous of people that you don't know. Let's just take inspiration from them. So like the hardware technician guy, why am I mentioning it to you, Solomon? I'm mentioning it to you because if you are on places like LinkedIn, the question you're asking about AWS and whatnot, you see the answers. You see that you see people that are AWS experts working there. How did they get there? You start seeing, oh, this is the certification, this is the school. So that way it's easy for you to, quote and unquote, research about that school, research about what they did, and start doing the same thing. You get the point, So that way you're not putting yourself to the danger of Opeyemi said this, Bade said this. You can actually see something that is contextual to the story or your own life or what you've done today and where you want to be tomorrow. If you get what I mean, please. Very important. LinkedIn, it can really help. It can really help. Just searching profiles on LinkedIn. I do it a lot, right? And it helps me. Please, you can start doing the same today.
I have someone sending me private messages, so let me just deal with that question. I have someone sending me private messages that says you've built an HR assessment tool, you've built what else did you say you built MailChimp, something like MailChimp for SendGrid and so on. You built a job portal. There's a challenge that you have. Each one of those things you built, they seem to me like just Captain Local Host things. Pick one of these things, right, and run it to a logical conclusion. And when I say run it, create a startup around it. If you look at our previous video for when we discussed TechNation, you will find out that TechNation doesn't want you to be a consultant. They prefer you to be someone that has run something from start to finish, because there are many different loopholes and pit stops and all of that that you will discover because you ran this startup. So please don't just tell me that you've built this job portal. What's the name of the job portal? How many customers do you have? How many people have found jobs on that portal? That's one. Second thing is that the world is looking for innovation. So please don't just tell me you built a job portal. Opey did that 10 years ago. There must be something unique, something innovative, something that you are doing differently. And it's not that difficult to figure that out. If you don't have that niche today, it's fine for you to say, oh, fine, I'm building something like Uber. No problem. Start from that. But over a period of time, you will discover unique problems that you can solve that maybe Uber is not even thinking about. Maybe someone else is not thinking about. Don't be afraid to fail as well. So I hope that's a good advice for the person that sent me those private messages. And please stop sending private messages. Send it on the chat so that one of us,
Everybody can learn. Yeah.
everybody can learn as well. I don't know if there are any other questions.
There's one last one.
Okay, go ahead.
Sadiq Tijani. Sadiq said, I've run a failed startup and working on something at the moment. What are my chances? Like I said, for the visa bit, you just need to have been running something. It doesn't really matter whether it's going to fail or whether it's going to succeed. That's just something big. Startups do fail. It's okay. It's okay to fail. I failed a lot, right? I don't even know whether what I'm working on currently now is failing or is not failing. I don't even know. Like, I'm confused myself, right? But what I can tell you is the fact that every single extra day you spend on your startup, you get more clarity, right? So it doesn't even matter whether it's going to fail or not. That's not the issue. Just keep doing what you're doing and apply. If you're looking for the visa, apply with it. Another thing for founders is, if you know, and this is where I have a soft spot for builders. Please, if you're a builder, you like the guy that said he has built 3 things, please talk to me. I like builders who built and failed. One thing is, you learn a lot during the process. You learn that there are some things that are not worth building, right? And also you learn that it's not just about building, right? It's not about building a software. It's about building a company, right? Building a solution that people want, right? And you learn that sometimes it's not even good to do it alone. You need to get to do it with other people, right? Co-founders, people that are stronger on the business side, or even getting your first client before you start building, right? So I would definitely love to talk to folks like that. I think those are like my favorite folks, because I believe I'm super positioned to help you, even just kind of thinking through building and whatnot. Badi is also here. Badi is a builder with experience. So yeah, reach out to us and let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just 2 minutes into the extra 10 minutes we got, and so I think we should start rounding up at this point. I wanted to deal with 2 things. One, from the business side, because my people at Emigrate won't be happy if I don't do this. So don't forget that we do have multiple Emigrate services that are geared to help you. You can find more information about that if you look at the website that we posted, and we'll repost that as well. I also recognize that for those of us that are already way ahead in tech, 15 years, 10 years, and so on, there are also things that we mentioned. I don't know if you missed some of them, but there are some things that we mentioned that may be useful for you. If you already have a stash of money, right, there are many things you can do. If you can afford second citizenship, you can do that. If you can afford investing in the US or any other country, you can do that. But in addition, there are other things you can do as well. One of that Opey suggested is that you can run something by the side. The good news is that there are younger people in tech that are looking for you. because you can be the business side of something that is built, a startup of some sort, and so on. So if you are in tech, there are opportunities for you, even if you are very experienced, and even your profile may qualify you. Ope talked about the EB2 visa today. We've spoken in the past about the Tech Nation visa, and there are several other visa opportunities as well that you can simply Google for you to know whether or not this is a route that you can take. What Emigrate can do in terms of help with is, I mean, if you need additional information, if you need direction, if you need handholding, and so on. To answer a question that someone asked, that if I make payment, do you guarantee me a visa? No, we are not a visa agency. We cannot guarantee you or anybody else a visa. What we can do is to show you the way. What we can do is handhold you in going to that way. But at the end of the day, it's your career as well. Ope, I don't know if you have some last words, and then maybe how people can reach out to you if they want to after this.
Me, I can guarantee you a visa if you would meet all the requirements and if you won't lie on your profile. Which essentially is me not guaranteeing anything, because that means you're already qualified.
Exactly.
So you can meet those two things, I'll guarantee you a visa. Yeah. So last words, I would just say pretty much anyone can immigrate, right? I know cash might be one of the biggest challenges. We might not have talked about that, but some of these things sound easy. But by the way, we both will agree that there's a challenge of cash.
Yeah.
Even if you're going for the basic Canadian one, there's still, you have to write IELTS. Like personally, I paid for IELTS for people that I know. Please don't reach out to me to tell me to pay for you. I'm not likely to answer you. Like at least 2 people in the last 1 week. You get the point. And that's like, it adds up. I sponsored a training recently on IELTS on WhatsApp. Some of you might have seen it. Where like 200 people answer, with what's their name again? ClassPass. It's not, sorry, not ClassPass. Sorry, the name just this lesson company. I forgot. Just kind of his name just now. Worked with them to kind of get like 200 people IELTS. Why did I do that? When I saw a lot of people wanting to do IELTS and it was getting to be a lot of people. Okay, let's put everybody in one class. So these things can be expensive, but I can tell you that the value at the end of the day is worth it, right? Also, in your own network, you find people that can help you in terms of the cash, but they need you to show traction first, right? If you reach out to me, I'm not likely to answer you.
Is it
but
prep class? Is it prep
prep
class?
class I was trying to remember. But if you like you if you, for example, if I see someone that's scored crazily in IELTS or DGI and scored crazily, yeah, you could easily reach out to almost anybody and they want help because they can see that, oh, you've done your own part. You get the point. And don't do soft stories. There's a guy that says something like, I've tried everything earlier on this. Please, nobody likes soft stories. Let's see, this thing is real. Nobody likes soft stories because
Oops. Are we the ones off? I think so. Okay. Let me see. Can anyone hear me?
let me tell you a shocking reality about stories about the place. Show strength.
Okay. All right. Am I still on? Oh, okay. I think it's Ope that went offline. Apologies, I thought I was the one offline. Ope was just giving some of his own final thoughts, and I think my own final thoughts is just extending from what he was saying. Ope, are you back? Hello? All right, my own final thought was just extending from what it was saying. The first one is that there are things that you need to do today. If you know that you want to emigrate in 2 years' time, there are things that you should be doing today. And those are some of the things that we hope that you have picked up in this session. Google the visa types that we've mentioned. Look at the requirements. Start plotting your career to say, how can I meet these requirements over a period of time? These things are not, you don't need anyone's help to do that, right? There are things that you may need people's help for, and that's why we have the different emigrate services available to you, right? But the ones that you can do yourself, start from those ones, start from those things, and don't say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't know how to do this. This information are available to you. This information is online, and what you need to do is start going through that process. And if you are one of the people that already qualified today, remember Okwe was saying that he can guarantee, I mean, we don't guarantee anyone visas, but the truth is that if you meet the qualification, you will get the visa. One of the things that Nigeria has done to some of us is the mentality that I need to know someone or nobody to help me and all of those kind of things. That's not how things work in developed countries. Developed countries will list out a requirement. If you meet those requirements, then you are in. If you don't meet those requirements, then you are not in. That it's as simple as that. The point is, do you meet those requirements? Are you able to? Will you put in the work that are necessary? And for those that already today, you already feel like you meet those requirements, maybe what you need to do is start dusting some of your papers and so on. In terms of cost, there are some that, I mean, this is all relative. The EB1, EB2 visa, Okwe mentioned some of the costs that he had to pay for that visa. For the technician visa, there are costs to some of these as well. But the truth is that if you're already earning income, you can start saving towards it, because I mean, as low as 250,000, 200,000 or thereabouts, you can actually emigrate. But you need to plan towards it, and then you need to understand what visa type are you thinking about. Somebody said, what are the respective visa types? And we actually showed that earlier in the call. And so if you take a look at the recording of this call, the recording of this call is only available for free to Emigrate Circle. But I've dropped a link to the recording for people on the call right now, so you can pick up that link and then go back to the beginning of this call. You will see some of the visa types that were mentioned there. All right, someone also asked that, is there a WhatsApp group? Yes, we started the Emigrate community on both Telegram and also on WhatsApp, so you can join the Emigrate community and you can also ask questions there. It is not open for conversation all the time. However, from time to time, we would open the community up. So that would be in the step 2 of what I just posted. You can go to that link and you will see the link to join the WhatsApp group or the Telegram group there. So that being said, we are 20 minutes past the time for today's call. We hope this has been useful for everyone. And we hope that you will take a look at some of the information shared and you will build on it. Don't do an emotional high and then forget everything within 1 week. Take actionable steps today. If you require an Emigrate service or the other, I mean, we have limited capacity at the moment, and so you will need to book very quickly, because if we reach our capacity for every month, we are not able to take anybody else at that point in time. The next open day will be happening next month, and we have monthly open days moving forward from there. So I think with that said, I don't know if Okwe is back on. I'm checking if he needs to say his final goodbye. No, Okwe is not back online yet. So thank you very much, everyone, and do have a lovely day as well. Thank you. Bye.